Welcome to the Eurostep Brit podcast.
Game's going to be decided here. Harold spots up. Doesn't go. Putback is good! Roberto Canada with a second chance opportunity. Aris lead. Per Gunter for three. Got it. Per Gunter drei Punkte. Courage inside. For Gordon for the dunk. Ball game.
Hello and welcome to a special bonus episode of the Eurostep Brit podcast. We'll call this one Episode 4, A New Hope. You can probably tell what film I was watching last night, but I feel it's apt for where we are today. The British Basketball League is no more. Instead, the men's and women's teams are moving forward under the umbrella of Super League Basketball, SLB for short. I am going to miss the BBL. While I can just about remember games from before it was formed, it was during the early 90s that it became part of my everyday life. So much so that I still miss the Thames Valley Tigers this day, even though it's almost 20 years since they last played a game. But I digress. While I feel really sad for all those connected with Plymouth who won't be in the league this season, we have to be thankful that we still have a league this year and just have to hope that top flight basketball can return to Devon in the near future. Now, the reason for this pod. This week was the press launch of Super League, a chance to speak to some of those involved ahead of the first games this weekend. I figured it would be a nice chance to do a special bonus episode. Didn't have a great deal of free time, but was able to fill in a couple of shorter interviews. So in this episode, we'll hear in a bit from Paul Blake of the Newcastle Eagles. But first up, let's listen to what Dan Clark had to say about the move from the Scorchers era to the 89ers and from the BBL to the Super League. If we can just start by going back to your time with the Scorchers. You hang up your sneakers just over 2 years ago, move into the front office of Surrey Scorchers. You know the history of that franchise and their struggles in recent years. So how did it feel last spring when Lloyd Gardner and the team got the Scorchers back into the playoffs for the first time in 6 years?
Yeah, as you said, it was, obviously the opportunity came across my table to move into the front office of Surrey, which is something I was excited about. I was excited about for a number of reasons. Obviously, it wasn't the most successful franchise, but it was somewhat of a blank canvas. Obviously, I didn't exist in relationship with Lloyd, but I was confident that would work in the right way. And yeah, I think we both see British basketball, but then also see basketball in the same way, which really helps and really makes things a lot easier to especially when it comes to recruitment and the style of play that we want to implement on the team. It really comes to the forefront because it's a vision that we both share. So yeah, it was great. Our fans loved the fact that we were back in the playoffs. We loved the fact that we're back in the playoffs. I think it was a good reward for the work that Lloyd's been doing, especially, and for what the players have been doing. There's some players there that have, the likes of Teo and Andrew, and that they've been there for a few years and not had the best of time. So it was a nice thing to achieve. But obviously we would have liked to finish higher, and we believe we could have finished higher. But yeah, we understand where we're at as a franchise, not just on the court but off the court, and realize that things, we don't want miracles to happen. We want things to be built on a solid foundation, and and hopefully what happened, when we were with Scorchers, was just a start, and putting those building blocks in place to be able to be successful for many years to come.
Moving on to this summer just past, how did it come about then that the Scorchers would be no more and yourself and Jody Jackson would be starting afresh with the 89ers?
Yeah, I mean, it's all been very manic, very hectic, both from a league point of view and a club point of view for us. Both myself and Jody are obviously very heavily involved in the management of the team beforehand. And as many people know, the Scorchers were previously solely owned by the University of Surrey. And they took the decision that they were no longer capable of supporting or funding a professional sports team, as in the same way they did with the professional netball team that they owned. The disappointment, I suppose, came with the timing of the whole situation. It didn't leave us a lot of time to make a decision, which in many ways was a good thing, because it meant that we had to trust our gut and just go with what we thought was best at that time. And as we can all see, that we decided to go ahead and try and, try and bring basketball back to Surrey, basically, is the way a lot of fans have described it. We have a great fan base, a lot of support from the fan base so far, and we're delighted of how things have gone so far. And a lot of that delightment has come from the support that we've got from our fans. So yeah, it was hectic, it was manic, and it was a lot of just trusting your gut, basically, is the way to go, the way to look on it. But yeah, we're extremely excited. We're up for the challenge, and it's a big challenge. There's no doubt about it. But we're more than confident that it will be successful, and basketball in Surrey will be very successful.
And with obviously the name change to the 89ers, was this a chance then for you to start afresh?
Yeah, no, it's a new start, a brand new start. It's a new team that we still play and practice out of Surrey Sports Park, but that's the only link we have to the University of Surrey now. We are a commercial client of the University of Surrey, so there's no link there as there was before. But the most important thing, as I said, that basketball is continuing to being played at an elite level in Surrey. I was, one of the most surprising things that I took on board when I joined the Scorchers back a few years back was the amount of basketball that's played in Surrey. The amount of clubs, the amount of teams that are around. So it is a big basketball hub, and we just want to make the most of it and make it, successful and elite level.
It's been a hectic few months for everyone around the league with the transition from the British Basketball League era to the Super League one. But in your case, of course, you have the added element of getting a new franchise going. What's it been like for you over the last couple of months, having to get everything ready for the new season?
Yeah, I mean, as I say, it's been hectic. There's been a steep learning curves in many areas. Especially for me. As I was still on that learning curve, having retired from basketball and being a player for what was pretty much 20 years. So as a player, you kind of just assume and think things magically happen when it's pretty obvious now to me that they don't. There's a lot of work that goes on in the background, a lot of preparation, a lot of planning. So yeah, it's been an eventful summer, a busy summer, but there's no bad jobs. There's just a lot of jobs, is the way we've been describing it. So as I said, we're really excited about the opportunity, really excited about the possibilities for basketball in Surrey, as I said before, and I'm really looking forward to the challenge.
When you retired a couple of years ago, did you ever imagine that 2 years down the road, you could be running a franchise?
No, I did not. No, there was, I was fully aware that there was a lot of learning needed, a lot of yeah, a lot of lessons that I had to learn in a hard way, and I needed to be humbled a bit by those lessons, and I have been, I think, and I'm sure there's a lot more humbling to come along the way, but yeah, I definitely didn't expect it, but sometimes life presents you with opportunities that that you've got to take, and you just got to go for it, and especially in sport, right? There's not a lot of these opportunities. There's not a lot of teams to be able to be owning. So yeah, extremely grateful for the opportunity. Extremely, but at the same time, fully aware of the responsibility and raring for the challenge, basically.
When I was working with a club a few years ago, even during the bad times, the fans would turn out in force and support the team. What's been the reaction so far from the fan base to the new Niners era?
Yeah, so far it's been great. As I said before, that we're blessed with amazing fans in Surrey. They turn out week in, week out. They've all bought their new drums, they've all bought their new merch, they've been down to preseason games, they've been down to practice, they've been down to try and get to know the players. So, we're lucky from that point of view. We still need to get the Surrey 89ers name out there a bit more across the borough, across the county of Surrey. And make it aware that obviously a lot of people still associate basketball in Surrey with Scorchers, but obviously that no longer exists, and the 89ers are at the top of the triangle, as I call it, in terms of the place to go for elite basketball and to see high level entertainment on the basketball court, basically. So we're in the process of doing that and trying to get the name out there a bit more. But so far our fans have been absolutely amazing.
And finally, it all starts for real this weekend when London Lions visit the sports park on Saturday. What goals and hopes do you have, not only for the team, but for the franchise as well this season?
Yeah, I think as a franchise, we definitely need to build up our fan base again. Make people aware of the Surrey 89ers brand and get that name out there. And then as a team on the court, I think I have so much confidence in Lloyd and what he's trying to do on the basketball court and the way we want to play basketball that I'm sure we'll have a lot of success. I think the league's more evened out this year. I would say there's an increased amount of talent, but it's more spread out across the league. So I really do think it's going to be a great season for everybody. But hopefully Surrey comes out on top in in the majority of games.
Dan, thank you for joining us today and best of luck this coming season.
No, thanks a lot. Appreciate it, Niall.
So, from Surrey to Tyneside, and a chance to speak with the man who runs the Newcastle Eagles, Paul Blake. And in this interview, we had a chance to look back, obviously, on the BBL era in which the Newcastle Eagles were the most successful team. We talk a little bit about the arena, GB, and of course, the transition from BBL to Super League. And of course, we have to talk a little bit about the EMBL. So, without further ado, let's get to it. Paul, welcome to the podcast. Let's start. The British Basketball League is no more. The Super League era is here. When you look back on those BBL days, how proud are you of everything the Eagles achieved during that time, not only on the court, but off it as well?
Yeah, of course, extremely proud. It's a long journey for me, my wife, a lot of staff actually that have been with us since the early 2000s, pre the arena build, pre any trophies on the table in the cabinet. So it's, super long journey. It's 25 years ownership for me as of last August. So it's, as I say, it's been a long journey, but a very, very successful one, of course. And lots of very good memories, particularly of, Fab's run and the teams that he put together over those years.
I mean, there's obviously been a lot of trophies. I mean, now the book is closed on the BBL era, you will always be remembered as the most successful club during that time. But does any one particular season or one particular trophy stick out to you?
I suppose you always go back to the first one, don't you? I certainly do, and that was the trophy final at the Brighton Centre against Nick Nurse's Brighton Bears back in 2005. I do remember that very, very clearly, and obviously that one sticks out. I also think, I haven't been asked this before, the first playoff final at the O2. And I'm going to say that was the one that we won. I think we've been there twice. I think we won one, lost one, but our first playoff final at the O2 was just an incredible experience. Taking our little club to such a big venue and having that day out, and just for everybody at that point, because Andy and the team at the league had worked so hard to move that event up the scale from Birmingham to Wembley and then to the O2. They were very big steps, and to pull it off and have 16,000 people at that event was something I'll never forget.
I say it must have been amazing because again, all those smaller venues, even Wembley Arena, and then suddenly to go into a huge capacity arena like the O2 for the first time, and your team's playing there. That's magical, isn't it?
Yeah, and you think all of the big acts that have appeared there over all these years, and now to look back, and I think we're at, I could be wrong with this, but we're 10 years, I think, at the O2 nearly, if not already. So time flies, doesn't it? But yeah, to go back to that, those two in particular, I think, and then obviously the seasons where we've won all 4 trophies as well. Those teams that were put together were really, really tight, well organised groups of players. So yeah, look back on a lot of it with great fondness.
So we move on to the new era. Obviously, a lot of upheaval, a lot of changes. The BBL's finished, Super League era is here. What's it been like for you and the club this summer, trying to get everything ready for this weekend?
I'd have to say it's been extremely challenging, as you'd expect. In terms of the way things played out and what we had to step up and take charge of as clubs. And over the years that a number of us have been involved, it's not something that we haven't been involved with before, of course. But the timescales, when everything played out the way it played out, were clearly extremely tight. and probably even tighter than we even thought. So to get to where we are today is a testament to a lot of hard work done by a lot of people across the clubs that are with us today.
If we look at your home venue, obviously one of the nicest venues in the league, what's it like having the Virtue Motors Arena, not only to home the Eagles, but to have the GB men playing there as well?
It's fantastic. It's great to just be based on one site as much as anything else, and to have the amount of different activities that we've got going on at the Virtue Motors Arena. It's a whole new world. It's a whole new level of work, of course, because it's not just a basketball club anymore, and even then at its core, it's a men's club, a women's club, and a club that's playing in Europe. So that regardless of anything else, no matter that we're in our own venue, that's 40 home games a season now. And then obviously all of the additional events that we're now operating, and all of the community activity that's happening in the building, all of the business lettings for room hire that we have available to us. It's a big operation, and actually no different to where I am today at the kind of medical arena. It's exactly the same thing that Sheffield are experiencing, and Leicester, and equally, Caledonia with their new venue. So we're all going through that growth spurt, if you like, regardless of the fact that we're in a new league.
Obviously, Paul, the Virtue Motors Arena's hosted a lot of GB games over recent seasons. What's the relationship like between the club and the British Basketball Federation?
Yeah, good question. We've obviously hosted, I'm going to say 7 GB games in the last several years, and become a bit of a home for the GB team in that period of time. And all of those events have gone down really well, and obviously had some historic wins. The Greece game coming to mind, running Latvia extremely close for Porzingis to take it away from us pretty much on the buzzer. And just to be working closely with the British Federation over that period of time has been, an excellent experience, I think, for all of us. We obviously, in terms of the new league setup, are working closely with the Federation moving forward, Chris Grant and the whole of the board and the team there. It's really important to me, and I think the league as well, that's maintained. That close relationship is built upon in future years. Extremely important.
Obviously, you joined the EMBL last season. You're back in again this year. You had great success. I mean, you came so close to beating Bakken in the playoffs. What was it like for you to see the Eagles finally playing in the European competition? And how important was it for you for the Eagles to be back again this year?
I think we'd always said that once we took the step into Europe, it wasn't to take a step in and then a step out again. It was to go in and have that as part of the business strategy moving forward, and to make sure we stayed in. So it was never going to be a question of us not going back in this season. It was excruciating to lose that quarterfinal the way we did. Losing at home by 5 and winning away by 5. I think we missed 11 free throws in the home game as well. So maybe if we would have got one of those, we would have progressed to the semi-final. But just to have had a winning record in the pool stages for me was more than any of us could have imagined, really. Particularly playing teams with, in the main, higher budgets than we had. So probably created a bit of a rub for our own backs in that scenario as well, because I don't expect it to be easy this season. We do clearly play a different style of basketball to a number of the teams that we're coming up against in Europe. So, which I would say was challenging for them, but they've got the tapes now, haven't they? So I'm sure their scout on us, all of them this season, will be a little different.
And how have the Eagles fans taken to it? Obviously, they're used to seeing the same domestic teams all the time. Suddenly to have 4 new teams come into Tyneside.
Yeah, I think it was well received. It has its own challenges because any midweek game, particularly when we're driving basketball as a family event in Newcastle, is a bit more of a challenge to fill than our regular Friday night slot. But it's the same as any event. They need time to bed in, be recognised, be understood. Regardless of whether it's European basketball or anything else, it's going to take a little time to find its own audience. Although that said, we did pretty well in the scheme of things. I think we were sort of averaging around 1,500 a game on those Tuesday nights that we played. So and a very loud partisan, Newcastle Geordie fan base coming to those games and making a lot of noise.
And if we can swing back finally then back to the Super League, it all gets underway on Friday at home to the Sheffield Sharks. After all the upheaval, all the work that's gone into this summer trying to get the new league ready, how excited are you to get it underway this Friday?
Yeah, it'd be great to get moving. It doesn't feel like last season has ended in some respects. We've been extremely busy across the summer, as I've said, and a handful of pre-season games. I'm sure Mark would have liked to have had one or two more, but we're off and running. It's a trophy stage. We have a lot of new players coming into the team again. We've won some pre-season games, lost some. This Friday will be the acid test, but it's just the start of a marathon, isn't it? At the end of the day, we've got 8-9 months to go, and as always, the way the team performs at the end of the season is always slightly different to the way it's performing at the start. So we just want to hopefully make sure that we've got a team that's going to gel and gel early.
I think we're about done. So thank you for listening into this little bonus episode of the podcast. If you want to find out more about Super League basketball in the UK, suggest you head to superleaguebasketball.co.uk, which has links to both the men's and women's sites. Of course, get all the fixture information, and you can also read about the new TV deal with DAZN. Until next time, my name's Niall Gray. Thanks for listening. You've been listening to the Eurostep Brit podcast, a Hoops and Hockey production.